How y'all doing? So, I want to talk a little bit about how deal structure works as an introduction to real estate investing. And so it's pretty basic. You have an asset, okay? Your house, okay? And this has value, okay? So you have an asset like a piece of property. The best assets are ones that have been improved or developed, like not just a piece of land. It's not super easy to get lending on land, even though it's not impossible, but an asset like this. And so a regular residential house has value because somebody needs to live in it, and somebody will pay a lot of money to live in it. So, and a lot of money is obviously a relative term. So here is how this works, and how you and me and anybody else who's interested can get into the realm and domain of investing without having a stockpile of cash for you to go and dump into. So, for example, if you wanted to go invest in Berkshire Hathaway or the S&P 500 or Tesla or Microsoft or anybody else that you happen to think is doing business well and has a lot of growth potential, you will need to have capital to do this. Now, here's the thing. You cannot, to my knowledge, go to a bank, any bank, a small bank, a credit union, a big bank, anybody, and you really, I guess, could pull a cash advance on a credit card, but that's not really a good idea. But hold that thought, because a credit card is unsecured. But you would not be able to pull out money from any bank or lending institution and actually invest it into the stock market if you're honest. But you can go to a bank, and you can go, or you couldn't invest into a startup either unless you got maybe an SBA loan. But you could go to any bank, small bank, big bank. You can go to anybody and get money, capital to invest into property or real estate. Okay. And why? Well, yes, the market in real estate has its ups and its downs, but historically it always appreciates. If you look at the real estate market over time, it always appreciates. Two, the investment is secured by collateral. And so collateral is basically something as a pledge. Meaning, hey, you give me $100, I give you my watch, and you give me my watch back when I pay you back. If I don't pay you back, well, then you keep my watch. Something like that. Makes sense? So real estate functions the same way. So that's why you have the idea of a foreclosure that happens. And so each state, every state that we have in America, your state is either going to use an instrument called a deed of trust or a mortgage. It's relatively the same thing practically, but it has to do with, basically, for the simplicity, it has to do with the foreclosure process. And so what it does is, let's say I go and want to buy a house as a retail buyer. I just got married. I want to buy a house and start a family. So we're going to go and look for a house. We're going to get pre-qualified by a lender. And then we make an offer on a house. The offer gets accepted. And then we go through the process of underwriting, so that they're going to want my tax returns, my bank statements, my W-2s. They're going to want to know everything about me, my blood type, my left arm, and my kids. I'm joking, but that's partially true. They want everything about you, and they have a lot of control. And so it goes through underwriting. They have standards that they have, you as the borrower have to conform to be able to get, it's called a conforming loan, that can be sold and invested into in the secondary market by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. That's way beyond the point. But the point is that the bank will give you money depending on the loan that you use. I'm a veteran, so I can use a VA loan. They'll fund 100% of the buy of a house. With the veterans, the Department of the Veterans will guarantee or insure 25% of the loan. So here's how that works. What happens if I don't pay? What happens if I default as the borrower? Well, they're going to take the house. Well, how do they take the house? They take it through the process of foreclosure. So in Texas, for example, I live in a deed of trust state. It's a non-judicial state. So typically, the standard foreclosure process does not have to go through the courts like it would in my previous state of South Carolina. So let's say this is called a mortgage is an instrument like a guitar or a trombone, but it's called an instrument that leans the debt against the property like a ladder. So think about it, it's called a lien, L-I-E-N, and it functions. The mortgage is a document or an instrument that functions, okay, to secure the investment of the lender into the asset. So the asset is collateral. It's like my watch, okay? The loan is the money. That's pretty basic, right? And so this right here is called a lien. Okay? So what happens is I go to borrow money from the bank to buy my house. And they say, yes, we'll fund you. We're going to close on this day. And, you know, let's say you have to come up with a down payment, which is going to be equity. Okay. You're going to sign a document called a mortgage. Okay. And it's going to have a huge bunch of terms. It's super in favor of the lender, obviously. And then you're going to sign something called a promissory note. And this note that your promise to repay the debt allows the bank or the lender to go and take the asset back if you default. Okay, so the mortgage secures the debt as a lien, and the promissory note gives them ground to go and get the house back. Okay, that's the basics of this. So that's a standard institutional transaction that you're going to get anywhere you go. Now, how does this work in investment? Well, really the same way. Okay, so let's say you don't have good credit, you don't have any money, but you want to get into real estate and make money, and you're trying to figure out how. Well, this is how it happened with me. So my first deal, I wholesaled the property. I came out with none of my own cash. Okay, I put a property under contract for $45,000, and I sold my contract to somebody else for $50,000, and I made the $5,000 arbitrage, the difference between, and I used none of my own cash to do that. And I've done that a lot. I made $100,000 on one deal doing that with none of my own cash. One deal, and I've done many of those deals, okay? But none of my own cash, okay? But let's say I want to close the property and I want to remodel the property and either sell it or keep it as a rental. These are pretty standard strategies, especially for newer investors, but even seasoned investors. So let's say I have an iPhone. I do have an iPhone. I think it's better than Android, but I've got a phone and I have a Rolodex of people on the phone that I know, I grew up with, I went to school with, maybe I went to college with, maybe I met them in the workplace. Who knows? You know, I don't know. But you've got people on there, and I guarantee you this, that you could find $1 million in capital in your contact list. And you're probably like, yeah, that's crazy. But no, it's not crazy. I'm telling you the truth, and I've done it. Now, you don't have to go to an institution. So let's say, hypothetically, you educate yourself and you learn how to analyze like a deal like this. Let's say you want to buy a house, it's distressed. You want to invest some money into it, make it real nice, like Chip and Joanna Gaines, like the TV shows, and then go and resell it for a profit. Well, you can do this with zero of your money. Okay. Now I want to back this up and say, just like buying a house the standard way, there's a risk involved. Okay. There's always a risk involved. There's a risk involved with you going to the bathroom. There's a risk involved with you taking a shower. There's a risk involved with you driving to Walmart or the grocery store to get groceries. There's always risk. So it just depends on you being able to analyze the risk, mitigate the risk as much as possible, and then decide whether or not you're willing to take the risk, because there's always going to be a reward as well. Higher risk, higher reward. Okay. So there's a relationship there. So let's say I find a property that I want to buy. Let me just wipe this off real quick. So let's do some math. So you get the idea of a lien, how the money is secured in the asset. So if I don't pay, then whoever loaned the money will come and take the house back and ideally get most of their investment back. So it really, the lien and the mortgage really mitigates the risk a lot, or reduces substantially the risk for the lender. So let's say I have a house that I want to buy for $100,000. It could be worth $300,000 if we invested, say, $100,000 into the house to improve the house. Okay. So how would this work? So, okay, so you've done your research and you know that the house could sell for $300K. You got a deal, you can get it for $100K, and it's going to take you $100,000 to improvement. You've got a general contractor who's willing to do the work for you. He's got the bid, you've got everything itemized out. So you're going to go and you're going to make a phone call to your Uncle Steve. And what he's going to do is say, hey, here's the deal. I want to invest my money. I want to lend my money. I want my money to work for me. I will give you the money to do the project. I want you to give me a 15% return on my money. Okay. So if you do a little bit of research into stocks and investing, a typical, again, there's always debate around this, but let's just say, hypothetically speaking, a good year in the stock market would net you probably around 10, maybe 12% of an ROI on your money. Okay. So let's say, hey, I'll give you 15%. Okay. Not only that, but your money is going to be secured in the asset. So in the event that I default and don't pay you back, and something happens to me, whether I get hit by a bus and I can't do it, I get paralyzed, or I just am an idiot and I just take the money and run, whatever it is. Well, your Uncle Steve can now go, because of the mortgage and promissory note that you're going to do with him when you close the deal, he can go and take the property back and then resell it and at least get his investment back. Does that make sense? So you can do that with anybody. So instead of you going to Wells Fargo or some local institution, some small bank, you can go to your Uncle Steve and he can function as the bank. And he can give you terms just like the bank would. Just like that. That's investment 101. That's raising capital, lending money 101. It is possible. You can do it. So what do? Well, how do you start this? Well, what you're going to go do is learn how to analyze a deal, ask questions, okay, find other people that have more experience than you and bounce things off of them, and then make the deal happen. And then you're going to connect somebody who wants to invest their money, a private money lender, okay, and there's a lot of them out there. If I could give you a better return on your investment and I can secure the investment into an asset like real estate, it's a no-brainer for a lot of people, and they want to do it. Especially if you give them a great return and you do what you're supposed to do, and you don't have to put them through a process like a foreclosure to go and get their money back. So you're going to do what you said, you're going to do what you promised, and they're going to give you the capital. So you're providing them an opportunity to have their money work for them. They're going to make money with you, okay? And from them giving you the money, you are also going to make money. And so let's say they give you $200K with a 15% ROI. So when you pay them back, you're going to owe them $230,000, okay? But you're going to have $300K. And so your net difference is $70,000, okay? $70,000, okay? You can make 70 grand on that example with none of your own money by using somebody else's money. So just, hey, I'm going to give you the money I've got sitting in my bank doing nothing. It's going to work for me harder and more secure in the deal that you brought me. My money's going to make me $30,000. And you're going to make 70 grand on that. Why wouldn't you do that? Now you've got 70 grand in the bank that you didn't have before. I don't even know if you make that much in a year, but let's say you do that twice a year. Well, now you could clear a 6-figure income, okay, by using somebody else's money. So let's say you wanted to hold that property. You could go and refinance the property and bring in a bank, okay, and they'll refinance 80% of the value of that. Some will do 85, but 80 will give you better terms. So the bank is going to come in there and pay off your Uncle Steve his money and his return. You're going to have equity in the deal. Now you can put a renter in there, Okay. And you'll make a little bit of money every month. And now somebody else is going to pay the debt off for you. And now you have equity in the asset and you can just repeat, wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. So you literally could build a little empire of real estate, of a portfolio with somebody else's money. What I do in commercial real estate, this is straight debt. I'm going to go and put a property under contract, put a nice tenant in there, close the deal. I'm going to use a bank to fund probably 80%, 75% of the purchase price. And I'm going to go and find somebody else who wants to put their money to work. I'm not going to give them debt, though. I'm going to give them equity in the deal. A little bit of a different structure. Same principle, though. Somebody else is going to give me the 250 grand to invest into the building, and I'm going to give them a cut of equity. And when we sell the building and I pay them back, their 250 grand is going to earn them $120,000 in less than a year. I know a lot of people that would do that deal. I would do that deal. Okay. So I hope this makes sense. I hope this is helpful. I hope this is insightful. I just wanted to give you a basic introduction to how the money works with the real estate transaction. You have money or capital and collateral, and it's held together by a lien on the property, which is the lien is the mortgage, okay, and the promise is the promissory note. And that's going to happen with everything. If you take a loan from a bank or a human to do a deal, those instruments are going to be in place, which secures their money and gets you the deal. Now, all you have to do is learn how to analyze the deal and put the deal together and execute. If you can do those things, if you can educate yourself, make it happen, and communicate, you will become wealthy and you will get out of the rat race, leave your 9-to-5 job, and move towards time and financial freedom and do a lot of good. So I'm going to end this with the words of my mentor, who got a lot of wisdom, guys. He told me this: you all lack the ability to communicate, and you lack knowledge, and you lack creativity, and you lack creativity because you lack knowledge. So I'm trying to give you some insights to how you can use knowledge to be creative, to make things happen. Okay, I can't help you how to communicate. That's something you got to develop on yourself. But I just showed you right here, basic example. Take it, run with it, and I hope that you do something. And I'd love to see somebody reach out to me sometime in the future and say, hey, man, I watched what you did that encouraged me, that inspired me, and I took action, and I did this deal, and I did that deal, and I did that deal, and I made money because of what you've showed me, just like I have done from others. And so take it, eat it, chew it, swallow it, make it happen. Boom.